Hello, friends. Thank you for watching these Shupi Home videos. We're trying something different today. Dharmadas is being the cameraman. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about solution consciousness. And I want to start with a story from Swami Kriyananda's life. This was back in the 1950s or early 60s. And he had just flown into New Delhi, India. It was a very crowded airport, lots of commotion. And the people who were supposed to be picking him up were not there. It was very late at night. It was, a lot of weather happening. The city itself was extremely crowded, and there were very, very few hotels that had rooms available. But Swami didn't know that, as he was just standing there in the airport looking for his friends, and then slowly realizing they were not there and were not coming. And as most people would do in that situation, many people were running about frantically, trying to find a telephone, trying to make arrangements, trying to hail cabs. But Swami, in that moment, did what was habitual for him to do. He closed his eyes and he stood there for a moment in that very crowded airport, lifted his consciousness up to the spiritual eye and said simply, "Divine Mother, what do you want me to do?" And when he opened his eyes, there was an Indian man standing in front of him, and the Indian man said, "What is your good name?" And Swami answered, "I'm Swami Kriyananda." And the Indian man said, "Oh, I thought it must be you. My friend Dr. Mishra has told me so much about you, and it just seemed that it must be you." And Swami said, "You're a friend of Dr. Mishra's? I've been wanting for a long time now to see him again, but I didn't have his address, and I didn't know where to find him." And the Indian man said, "Well, as it turns out, I'm on my way to meet him now. Why don't you come with me?" And so Swami was able to connect again with his dear friend. He had a place to stay. He found out later there were no hotel rooms available anywhere in the city. And his friends had been detained unavoidably, and they connected later. So all of it worked out beautifully because Swami lifted up his consciousness. Instead of giving in to being frantic, he relaxed. So this is a very, very important lesson for all of us. As Yogananda said, problems can't be solved from the same level of consciousness from which they were created. Problems have to be solved in a higher state of consciousness. And so as we face these days of coping with being home for long periods of time, being worried about our fate, the fate of our loved ones, thinking, what will happen if, what do I do if, all these sorts of worries crowd in on our minds, the very best thing that we can do is to lift our consciousness up and relax and try to tune in to what Divine Mother wants us to do. God has always been with you through your whole life. If you think back and think about all the circumstances of your life. Look and see how often and how deeply God has always been with you. And just to give you another little story about solution consciousness, some time ago I had this experience that was very illustrative to me. And what happened was I had worked on a project and I had it all organized and I felt very good about it being an important thing to do and excuse me, a really good project. And then it all crumbled to pieces. And I thought, oh no, in order for me to fix this, I am going to have to get into great detail and it's going to take a lot of time. And I frankly just despaired of the project. I had a meditation to go to later that evening, and I did not feel like meditating. I felt like crying in despair that I would have all this, what I considered non-essential work that shouldn't have had to have been done, that I was going to have to do, and it would just burn my brain. It was that kind of tedious work. And I felt like crying. But I had to lead this meditation, and so I went there. And one of the great tricks of meditation is to become very still right away. That stillness really helps to change your consciousness, change your whole attitude towards meditating and connecting with God. And so I did that. Even though I didn't feel like meditating, I became very still. I focused at the spiritual eye, all the things we're taught to do, and I focused on my breath, calming my breath. And as I sat there meditating, just trying to love God, trying to be at peace, trying to calm all my emotions from being thwarted in this project, I got very still, and a solution to the problem just floated gently through my mind. Why don't you do this? Instead of all that other work you were going to do, just do this. It was the voice of God. God comes to us in all kinds of ways. Never push him away, no matter what it is. Try to listen. Try to see if it's your imagination or if it's true. But you can tell in your heart if it's true. And so that was the solution that I came up with. But it was God giving it to me. And the more that we practice meditation, the more that we lift ourselves up by our bootstraps, as it were, the more we just try, even though we may feel we're not good at it, or it's too difficult, or I could never meditate, just keep trying. And God will give you what you need when you need it. God bless you.